So the quality check came back low, and the producer has been assigned a form to review the transcript. But here's the thing, one review might not be enough. The producer might reject it. We'll have to then retranscribe with a different service, and then we will need to send this transcription back to the reviewer for like a second look. This could happen more than one time, so we need a way to keep that loop going in our workflow until the producer is finally satisfied. That's exactly what the do while task is built for. It's Conductor's version of a loop. So it runs a sequence of tasks over and over, and after each round, it checks a condition. If the condition is still true, it loops again, and if not, it stops and the workflow moves on. If you've ever written a do-while loop in code, this is the same idea. The tasks inside always run at least once, and then the condition decides whether to keep going. So let's first set up our do-while loop in our workflow. So I'm just going to click on this plus button, and I'll look for do-while. And all it is right now, it's just a box. It's just a box, and it has no tasks inside of it. And what I want to do actually is I want to add my human task inside of my do-while loop. So what I can do is I can click on this button, enable dragging mode, and then I can drag this human task inside. And now my human task is added in my do-while loop. And then I'll disable that dragging mode. So now I need to configure my do-while loop. And so to configure it, what I want to do is I need one parameter. So I need the parameter of the producer's decision. So I'm just going to say producer decision. I'm going to leave the value as is for now. I'm just going to save this. So what I want to do actually now is I want to take, we're going to use our set variable task yet again. So I'm just going to say set variable. And I want to capture the response from our human task. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say producer decision. And I want to capture that from our previous task. So that will be from our human ref task output. And then dot approved. So all this captures is whether we approve or reject the transcription. So I'm just going to save this. And then I'm going to go back to this do while loop configuration. And I'm going to add the value here for the producer decision. So I'm going to do workflows variable dot producer decision. Workflow variables. I'm going to save this. Producer decision. Okay, so now what this is going to do is it's going to get that producer decision from our set variable. And what we can do here is we can set up some sort of condition. So I'm just going to click on ECMAScript. And here what I can do is just write another function. And for this, what I want to do is I want to return true. So I want to return true if our producer decision is not approved, basically. So if it's approved, we're going to exit out of the loop. But if this is, if our code returns true, then it's going to continue looping. So I'm just going to say return, and then I want to set that as a string. So I'm going to get our producer's decision right here, producer decision, and I want to set that to lowercase, just so in case like it for some reason goes to uppercase or something like that. And then I will say not equal to approve. Okay, so this is our code. So if for example our producer returns approve, then this is going to return false, and if the producer rejects it, it's going to return true, and we'll continue looping. So I'm just going to save this. And now we can actually execute in the next section and see how all of that works together. So what we want to do now is we want to execute the workflow so that we can see how the workflow runs from start to finish, and what happens when we hit that human task in our workflow, and what happens with the do while loop if we reject the transcription or if we approve the transcription. So I'm going to go to our button here on execute, and that takes us back again to our trusty old workflow under executions. And so here we're going to just continue waiting for 30 seconds now on our task before we hit that poll to transcription again. Okay, so we can see we went back to check transcript quality, route by quality. So like what you can notice here is that each time we run this, it's very, like, you can see that it's like very reliably runs down the same path without making any like unreasonable errors or anything like that. So you can very much expect for it to continue running the same way. So what we're going to do here is we can see that we hit that human task here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the human task executions. We have our assigned form, the same thing here that we saw before. I'm going to claim this. Okay, so if I scroll all the way down, I can say no notes again. This is inside our do while loop task. And I'm going to first reject this, and then I'm going to approve it. So let's see what happens if I reject this. Complete. Okay, task completed successfully. So let's go back to our workflow executions. You can see it's still running. It should be completed, but it's still running. So let's look here. Let's scroll all the way down. Okay, so we can see that it's still buffering. So we can see, first of all, set variable is set to green. So this task ran, and we have this circle with the number 2. So this means that we are on our second iteration of our do while loop. And we hit that human task again. So let me look at the human task here. So we can see we have assigned that user form again. So I'm just going to go and click on it again. The same thing. So I'm just going to claim this task. And I'm going to go all the way down. No notes again. This is our second loop. Smiley face. And this time I'm going to approve it and see what happens. So I'm just going to click on approve. Complete. Okay, and now I'm going to go back to workflow under executions. And we can see that now our workflow completed. So I'm just going to click into it and scroll all the way down to the bottom. And we can see that we exited out of this do while loop this do while loop was successful. So let's click on the do while loop and inspect what happened here. So if I click on input, okay, producer decision null on the second time. So we can see here our iteration number 1 and number 2. So we had 2 iterations. So on the first iteration, we rejected it. So we can inspect what happened. So we rejected it on the first iteration. So let me minimize that. And on the second iteration, we approved it. Okay. So what we need to do next, though, is we are still sending back the same transcription to our producer, but we don't want to do that. So if the producer rejects the transcription on the first time, we want to send it to a different transcriber, so like a different service, not Assembly AI, like something different. And then we can send this new transcription back to the producer if they reject it. So that's what we're going to do in our next part.